Welcome to the Acquisition HQ podcast, where we interview seasoned operators of companies that are anywhere between 2 to 50 million in EBITDA. We also interview M&A service providers, software developers in the space of acquisitions, as well as serve those who are investors, private equity, VC, high net worth individuals, on learning knowledge on how they make their investments, structure their companies accordingly. Today on the Acquisition HQ podcast, we're joined here with Milton Kleinpeter, a good friend of mine, as well as a founding member of the Acquisition HQ network, a seasoned executive with leadership experience across telecommunications, healthcare, biotech, manufacturing, and financial services. He is the CEO of Orchid Solutions, principal of Paladin Global Services, and the founder of Valuemate AI, an AI-powered platform that delivers business valuations in minutes, not months. I'm excited to hear more about that. Absolutely. Using current lending standards to estimate both company value and buyer financing capacity, Milton is a Six Sigma Black Belt, U.S. Navy veteran, and Kellogg School of Business alum who helps organizations drive operational excellence and unlocks measurable value. Like I said, I'm honored to have you on the podcast today, just diving deep a little bit more about your experience and in your understanding of the future of where AI is playing into the acquisition space, as well as the software that you are that you're developing now. But share with me a little bit about the past and how you started to get into this journey of being an entrepreneur.
Sure. So I tell people all the time, first of all, thanks for having me here. It's good to see you again, Nathan. What you guys are doing at Acquisition HQ is seminal and very, very unique in this market. The journey starts, once you finish school and you get into your business life, you end up, at least my pathway was big companies, learning operations, learning basically the basics of being an operator, but not seasoned. So you want to learn as much as you can across as many silos as you can. I had a state government job when I was really young. I worked for the federal government for a while, obviously military, then moving into larger companies, then some of the largest companies in the world, Dow 30 and Fortune 500 companies. Then once I gained my experience in those companies, getting smaller and smaller and smaller until the point that I felt that I had enough knowledge around 40 or so for me, I'm a slow learner, to become an entrepreneur. And taking all that experience I had across all those different silos and bringing it now to myself, my own business, and then now helping others to increase their business capacity, refine their operations, figure out where the leakages are occurring, and then more importantly, releasing and increasing their value, especially around time for an exit. That's sort of where we are.
Let's dive deeper into how you create value within a company. I think that's really important. Obviously, you being one who's seen so much, from a big company standpoint, from government standpoint. So share with us a little bit more of your insight as to the value drivers within companies.
So it's funny, that sort of evolved over the years. So as you look at one point, everyone still says sales cures everything, and it does. However, what about leakages? What about you having personnel that are in the inappropriate places? Value destroyers, your tax situation. What about how your company is actually running operationally? How can you find savings? If you have a company that has let's call it an 8x multiplier, every dollar you save in taxes and in operational savings is actually an 8 times savings. So why not fix these leakages, these sort of broken parts? Fix your financing right away. That's the number one thing. Fix your bookkeeping. That's one of the biggest destroyers of value. Is the owner involved in the business day to day too much? If that owner is the real value driver in the business, it's not a real business. It is technically a business, but it's a one-person operation with support. So how do we reduce that owner involvement so that the business can be free and flourish, and we get the owner out of it as well?
I think it's interesting too to understand that valuation. What does it really mean even if you're running the company to have a high valuation, because the valuation is typically for a company that's going to acquire your company upon a sell, right?
It can be, but it can also be for many other things. It can be for you going to get a loan at the bank.
Yep.
Okay. It could be for you to seek more investors, not necessarily for a whole acquisition. So there are a lot of different reasons you need to know what your valuation is. And I think what we are able to do at Valuemate AI is to provide something you couldn't get before, a snapshot, right? So I can sit down for 15 minutes right now for free and get a valuation that's going to be pretty on spot using our capital access model, which is a proprietary algorithm that's also associated with SBA lending standards. So you'll be able to get that consistent valuation that's going to be replicable. You can repeat it over and over again.
Let's talk problems within the industry of valuation that you've seen, right, as a whole. And obviously you guys are really pushing forward and making sure that you guys are making some changes in that area, obviously using AI and software. But share with us some of the kind of the industry as a whole and what you've seen, and then also how it's evolved, and then also the problems, that you continue are seeing.
So when you've seen one valuation, you've seen exactly one valuation. And there are 5 people in here right now. If we all looked at all the same data, looked at the same company, and ran it through our own individual filters, you're going to get 5 different valuations. Now, what we do at Valuemate is actually take that, what I'll call intra-valuation variability, a new term now. Okay, we're going to take that and narrow that error cone, because we'll be able to get that valuation over and over and over again with the same data inputs. The variability involved in 5 different people doing that is now over. Plus, it's congruent with the lending standards. What will a bank actually loan you to acquire a company? Everybody's watched Shark Tank before, and the funniest thing that we all see is the owners go in front of the sharks with a valuation in mind, and the sharks no matter whoever they are super seasoned, super successful business people. They know that valuation is pie in the sky 80 to 90% of the time. And then the owner, because they have an emotional tie to that valuation based on what the business will do in the future, which may be 100% accurate for the future, but it's inaccurate right now with that snapshot. So that's what we provide. Plus, our snapshot doesn't cost $20,000, and you get it in 15 to 20 minutes.
Why do you think this is the perfect time for this type of solution?
Absolutely, that's a great question. And it's because of what's going on right now. The continued graying of America, combined with the fact that the kids no longer want to work in the family business. So there's going to be, I think, estimated $10 trillion in the conveyance of businesses over the next 10 years. And that is going to be the most significant transfer of business value in the history of probably the world.
I mean, I can see it's a noble decision to just hop right into this space and provide tools, just like, what we're talking about, for people that have these companies. I mean, at the end of the day, one has worked in their business, and sometimes it's for their whole life they worked in a business, and we don't want them to exit without actually having a maximal value, but also keeping a pulse on what their valuation is.
Absolutely.
Software integration, AI right now, all these tools. Can you speak with us, with us a little bit deeper into what you're seeing, AI is doing though in this space?
Sure. So again, AI is providing more consistency. However, AI is probably the biggest example of garbage in, garbage out. So it depends on where you're pulling the data from, how recent the data is, and then, sometimes AI will just spit out an answer that's incorrect. So the vetting of the AI, the training of the AI, the consistency once you've modeled the AI. I tested ours last night. There's an error that I found not in performance, but in application, meaning that I got a follow-up call, which is programmed in our AI, but that follow-up call occurred at 3 a.m. this morning. Not ideal. So that's something we have to tweak today. Yeah.
Well, and as an operator, and you guys out there that are operating companies, you already know though, you've got to make alterations as necessary as quickly as possible to service your clients. Right?
That's correct.
Question around, operational red flags that you're seeing throughout the due diligence process, and then also, because again, if you can mitigate the inefficiencies within the due diligence process, you're going to have a higher rate of acquisition, and probably mitigate your overall, transaction risk, number one, but then also your integration. So share with us a little bit more about your perspective on the red flags through that process.
So I think the biggest red flags that are known are, of course, accounting practices, and how valid your numbers are, and how well done they are, and who they were done by. So having a bookkeeper for day-to-day operations is great. Having an accountant that has worked in your industry before is better. Having an accountant that works towards SEC standards is the best. And I think the biggest hidden concern now in red flag, especially since you brought up AI, is now, are you SOC 2 compliant? Are you compliant with all of the updates that are coming out regarding AI? If you have AI that is customer facing like myself, do you have an AI barrier or firewall to make certain that your AI is not going to I hate to use the term go rogue like the Terminator movie, but not provide the information that you wished it to be providing, or the guidance that it provides for your clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just, everything is moving so quickly right now. And I think that at the end of the day, AI helps us to aggregate data, organize that data, and then help us make brighter decisions about our future. And I think that, again, people like yourself that are developing these innovative softwares is going to be, imperative for the ecosystem of both transactions that are happening for one company to the next. Is there any additional information that you can provide for what you're excited about here for the future, and
Sure.
just take us a step through that?
Yeah, let me jump into one other pitfall, and that pitfall is something you just mentioned, and that sort of brought that thought in my mind. So the speed of everything is increasing, and as that speed increases, the speed of errors also increases, and the magnitude of those errors, or opportunity for errors of extreme magnitude, also increases. So that's something that we're all going to have to be aware of and cognizant of and plan for in our planning phases. So thanks for that tip there.
No, and that's really good, really good. Now, let's speak to the operator out there that's got the holdco, and they're looking to, make multiple acquisitions. What do you see that your software is in essence going to help with, through that process? Because I'd like to, I know we're talking about your software often here on the podcast, but I believe that, again, if we can understand how that's going to help support our acquisitions, but also see the problems as an industry, that the industry itself has. So share with us a little bit more about that integration process, and then also being able to place your tool right in the middle of all that.
Sure. So during the integration process, I'll actually call it the beginning of the process of due diligence for an acquisition. So I'll kind of walk through a generic situation that I was on the phone with yesterday. A partner of mine in the acquisition space has a client that is in the software area, and they want to roll up about 5 companies. So we went through one of the valuations of a company yesterday, and we came up with a valuation range that was plus or minus, I'll call it 15%. So we sort of ran it through the AI, and we came up with a value that was in that range, but it narrowed the range. And I think that's going to be the real tool that we have with Valuemate AI. You're going to get a more tight valuation range based on the objective realities of the company. Once you put in your top line earnings, that's your top line earnings. Once you put in all these different parameters that go into the valuation, they stay there. You end up getting a sandbox, and you can then start tweaking the aspects of the valuation to see what's going to happen when I end up making these changes. And I think that's going to be the main opportunity that Valuemate AI brings to the valuation space. We'll have a sandbox in which you can play and sort of game your company.
Talk to me a little bit more about the future, though, of the future of value exchange between one company and the next with the integration of software. Because personally, I'm seeing a major growth in that space right now, where in essence you have your, because every aspect of a company you do your due diligence, right? Financial due diligence, team due diligence, reach, everything that you have. But then there's this AI due diligence, in essence, that a company's going to have. But what are you seeing, again, the future of the value exchange between two different companies? Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think AI is going to allow you to take these companies now, find out the best aspects of each, find out the areas that they don't work well together in, reduce or eliminate those areas, and then help build a more focused, direct organization using the best aspects of both of the old codes. That's what I think.
It's really perceptive. I do believe that the future is now.
Yeah, yeah, we're living it. Like the old Chinese saying, may you live in interesting times. And I think we're living in very interesting times right now. I was sort of thinking about this recently with reflection on my past. So when I worked in telecommunication, we had an administrative assistant that handled travel because we traveled all the time. We had an administrative assistant that handled our day-to-day operations. Then we had an administrative assistant that handled nothing but our financing and bookkeeping. Guess where they've gone? They're sitting here in the laptop now. I handle my own travel. I handle most of my own accounting, and I handle most of my own administration with the help of AI. So we're now in another period just like that, that is going to increase the efficiency of the business owner. There's going to be more information at the fingertips of the average business owner than has been in the last, well, in all of time. I mean, we right now live better than the kings of yore, and we have more access to tools than some of the biggest industrialists in the history of the country. And that's only going to increase now with artificial intelligence. And what they're doing to build out the infrastructure for AI and make sure we maintain leadership of AI here in this country is critical. And we're going to see benefit from that.
Oh, I love talking about the future. It's because it is now, like like we both agreed. But there's like, when one wants to buy a company, like I said, there's all this infrastructure that they're looking for, and we're seeing companies that are leveraging AI to, like you said, go through the finances super easy. It's aggregated data at your fingertips. If I'm going to go make an acquisition, I'm just going to implement. There's the software side of things, which we've touched on in detail in this podcast, but I'm going to switch gears just a little bit because I know you as an operational professional, an organizational, somebody who's very good at it. I want to go deeper into the cultural creation of some of the things that we may not be seeing, because I like to be the antithesis of both AI, but then also the human communication, which I believe you do a really good job. So can you share with us a little bit of your perspective on the marriage between AI and the human?
Absolutely. That's a great point. So if you look at soft skills, right? Soft skills, emotional intelligence as an application of business acumen will become more important now than ever. And now that you're talking more and more about AI, I really think that the perfect person that will be an AI proponent in a company may end up being that English major that has technical acumen. Someone that knows how to create the language that the LLMs can use to create the output that they want. Subtleties are so important when using AI. And someone that really has a commander of, I guess it's the king's tongue now, is going to be that person that has that additional value that no one else is going to have. So the wordsmiths, the people that can actually see the constituent parts of what needs to be created in the language and see that in their minds and then put it down into the system, that person will be be the king or queen.
No, I like that. Walk us through a case study here, I'm a customer now. I'm gonna dive right into the Valuemate AI again, the software, and I'd like to learn a little bit more. I'm a business owner out there. Obviously, there's a lot of tools that have been created around this space, but you've got one right here, right now, for us to learn about. So, walk us through this process as one who is about to receive a valuation or needs one from a software like yours.
Yeah, so let's begin with the ending in mind, right? So the end is the acquisition, right? But if you can't get financing, no matter how great you think your business is, then the whole acquisition process is dead. It's dead on arrival. So what would happen to a homeowner, using this as an example, if that homeowner says, I want to sell my house. However, upon inspection, it turns out they're bad joist. The floor is unstable. The electricity is a mess. Inspector comes in, does the inspection, takes this to the owner. The owner takes to the bank, and the prospective buyer takes to the bank. The bank is going to run away screaming. They want nothing to do with that. And you can use that same analogy with a business. If accounting practices aren't there, if they're not best practices, if it is 60% owner involvement for all of the sales, that's not a business. It's a very lucrative hobby, but it's not a business that is actually ready for acquisition. So with acquisition, with our software, we're able to go into that business and say, okay, with Valuemate, we're able to take that business, look at all of its numbers, plug it in to the capital access model, which is also leveraged against SBA standards, and spit out a valuation that's going to be realistic because it's based on what cash flow the business has and can support the financing of the business. So that's what our chief advantage is. And that will be done just like hitting the drive. So if you think about valuation with regard to golfers, the golfer that scatters his drive 300 meters or 300 yards down the course, but it's in the rough all the time, will never beat the golfer that's hitting the ball 250 yards in the middle of the fairway.
True.
Yeah. So that's what we are. We're 250 yards in the middle of the fairway every single time.
I'm pretty sure that should be part of your slogan. 250 yards every time, 100% of the time. Man, it's, again, I'm excited about the solution that you're providing for the world. I think there's a place for what you're creating. And there's just a place for all of you out there that are seasoned operators to look at tools just like this to help you through this process. Share with us a little bit more insight. Do you have any other aspects of what you're building or some things that you're seeing in the industry that you would like to elaborate on?
Sure. I think now, because of the number of companies that will be on sale in the next 10 years, now's the time of the roll-up. And I was watching a video yesterday, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he said, you can actually do a roll-up every 2 years, and just calling out the number of what he said, $3 to $5 million companies, roll them up, increase the accretive value from $20 million of those companies up to $40 million, and then sell the entire company, the entire roll-ups company off. And you can do that every 2 years because there are so many companies that are out there, and there are so many legacy owners that are ready to exit. He said this is an unprecedented time in our industry. And so looking at things like that, and then looking at a tool like Valuemate AI, which is going to allow you to get that first consistent process started across all those companies simultaneously, it's going to do the thing that you were talking about, increase speed. And we know that we have a tool that will consistently do that all the time. So if you get that first valuation in 15 minutes, that's going to be a plus or minus 12.5% or so valuation, and you get those for those 5 target companies right away, you're now a month ahead of your schedule.
How long is it? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to
please
interrupt, but I was curious on how long it typically takes, though, for evaluation, or how long it had in the past.
About a month. Yeah, depending on the complexity of the company, a month to 6 weeks for a good solid valuation. A smaller company can be done in a couple weeks. Generally about 40 hours of work. Yes.
Who are the people that are involved typically with that? There's obviously, is it the CPA or?
CPA or CFO, if you have a fractional CFO, like we have one that we work with, a couple CPAs, MBAs, it just depends. So it depends on what you're doing. We had to do one for a mining company about a month ago around some of their tax issues. So we brought in experts that were in the mining sector.
Again, this is Milton Kleinpeter. He's been absolutely amazing here today on the podcast, speaking to us a little bit more about valuation drivers, the understanding of the future of AI, where it's currently, where it's going. And again, your knowledge is expansive. What are you seeing for the future of AI? I'd like to close on that.
Wow, the future of AI is probably the most impressive and expansive future that we've seen in anything. It's going to be 10x of what the laptop and the PC did and the internet.
I agree. Well, Milton, again, he's one of our founding members of the Acquisition HQ network, and also he'll be joining us at the national conference that we host every year. Our national conference is called Acquisition Conference, or AquaCon, and we'll be hosting that in 2026. If you want to learn more about that specific conference, feel free to go to aquacon.live. And if you would like to be part of our private network as well, we've got spaces that are available. It's by application, and you can go to acquisitionhq.co.
Nathan, what
Yeah.
are the dates of the AquaCon coming up?
Yeah, the dates for this upcoming one in 26 is going to be March 5th and 6th. So feel free to grab your guys' ticket. And again, we'll look forward to seeing you in the room. And if you guys want to hear more conversations just like this with other individuals who are building software in the space of M&A, as well as people that are investing, and also seasoned operators and how they were able to make acquisitions for themselves or sell their businesses, this is your podcast. This is directly for you. And we look forward to making more for you in the future.